Nice, man. So good seeing you again.
Great seeing you too, brother. Last time I think it was what, Camp Fit, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, man.
and you were living your best life, helping out in the session.
Yeah, man. I've been doing that gig for like before people thought it was like a thing to do, right? Like, and true story, I met maybe like the first or second year when T-Rex was just coming out and trying to do CanFit, and I walked up to Fraser. I was like, you know that 40-40 challenge you guys are doing? I was like, yeah. I was like, I think I could do 50 on it. He's like, all right, let's see it. Right. So just banged it out. And I was like, we talked after. And I was like, you know what? He's like, you know, like I'd love to just help out, just be a second set of eyes in the room or just like spot or whatever, just float around. He's like, yeah, sure. He was like, email this person, whatever. I've been doing that since probably like 2005.
No, you did a great. You had great energy, man. You always remember the energy always invites, right? You get what they say, real recognize real. So always remember you from just the great energy and having some fun. If I'm gonna teach a session, we got to be there for an hour and a half. We're gonna try to have some fun. We got to
absolutely drop some BDK and just make it happen, right?
Pretty much, that's it.
I love that. Yeah,
Camp Fit is a good one. Always good, you know. Be Toronto, walk around, and
yeah. Do you do a lot of like virtual conferences right now too, or?
You know what? I have not done. I did Filex virtually. I'm gonna do Optima. I'm doing a warm up for Hyperice Idea Fit. But you know, I kind of to be honest with this whole thing, this has been good, and in a lot of ways, I stepped away from just trying to be really just busy. You know, because sometimes, you know, as we know, like in the industry, right, you can want to be completely busy, but that doesn't always mean you're doing your best work, right?
Yes.
And you know, before that, and I know we wanted to talk about this and kind of spitball, and I'm probably jumping out ahead a little bit. The good thing about the whole Corona thing is it forced me to step back and really concentrate on what I got going on in-house.
Yes.
Before I was kind of like all over the place. So now it's being here, being with the people, and, you know, just really back to the roots of why we started doing this.
Yeah. It sounds like just being present is the key thing, right?
Yeah, so dope when we think about it that way, right? I forgot what I think it was, have you seen The Last Dance?
Yes.
Everybody's seen that, right?
Right.
So I think it's maybe the second to last episode, or it might have even been the last. But there was one guy who was talking about it, and I completely missed it the first time I was watching it. But I went back and I was watching it when it came on Netflix again, and the guy said he's like the great thing about Michael Jordan. He was like, and people, like, you know, they talk about the athletic feats. He was like, he was able to be extremely present in whatever situation it was. He didn't look so far forward. It's like that quote that he says, why would I worry about missing a shot that I haven't even taken yet?
Yes.
You know? And it snapped me back to like, man, you know, you're running and doing all these things. So when it came to the virtual thing, I'm going to do a few, but you know, I was trying not to just kind of be out there. I was trying to really be in the plays.
Yeah. I love how you said that, like just about doing your best work. You know, and it's true. We got caught up in doing all these different things, and you know, from the outside looking in, it looks like you're doing great work because I see you everywhere and I see all these different things. But then you're right. It's like we can't be. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're being efficient.
No,
you know,
like it's you know, I think about, I used to work for a company called New York Sports Club, you know, which everybody knows that. I don't have to tell you that. You know that, everybody. So I worked there, and the big thing there when I first started was like, how many sessions can you do in a month, right?
Yes.
How many sessions? And I remember, you know, wanting to be the guy who did like 200 sessions a month and stuff like that. And then I had a friend who was an OG, and he came up to me and he's like, if you're doing 200 sessions a month, he's like, there's no way you could tell me you're giving 200 quality sessions a month.
Right.
And I'm like, looked at him like, you don't know what you're talking about. I want to do 200. But it's the truth. It's like, if I'm everywhere doing everything, how can I really be like there with Martin doing what, you know, we signed up to do, right?
Right. Exactly.
So now, yes, back to the roots.
Yes. Before we dive way too deep, just
he's like, we get too deep already.
Just state your name and your business, and we'll keep running, man.
All right. Mike Piercy. I own the Lab Performance and Sports Science here in Fairfield, New Jersey. If somebody caught me in the elevator and said, "What do you guys do?" We use athletic-based skill activities to help people reach their fitness goals. So we have athletes from pro elite level all the way down to youth, all the way to everyday athletes, which is like you see today is our everyday athletes, like 7 a.m. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 9 a.m.
Love it. So for the rookie PT out there, how long did you practice that elevator pitch? Because that was crispy clean, man.
Was it?
Yeah, man.
You know what? I haven't practiced that. I just come from people like, you know, I'm a presenter. You come from people asking you what you do, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's hard when people ask you because you just want to tell them so many things, right?
Yes, for sure. Because you know, we have like 10 hustles going on right now. Right? So you have to. But like, what's the most relevant one to talk about in the 7 seconds that I have with you?
Yep, and that's it. It's like I start thinking, what if I'm trapped with somebody and they say, what makes you unique? That's what it is. That's what we do. You know, combine with.
Yeah, I was Isadora was a personal trainer. I had her on yesterday. Okay. And just as I was reflecting on today, it's almost like you guys are at other opposite ends of the spectrum. She's young and just zealous, and she's super smart, and she's building her business and ramping it up. And not to say like you've arrived, you can sit back and you're there, but there's a lot of experience and wisdom stuff that you have that people are still moving towards. So the question I asked her was, who is your ideal client? And it's natural to say, I love everybody. I love working with everybody. Mm-hmm. Like, what's your recommendation for someone who says, I love working with everybody, when you know that, like, you really, like you just said, like having something unique in a niche is what helps.
That was smooth. You just called me old in a real nice way.
Yeah, man. I think we're the same age, right? So
it was nice, though. I thought that was smoother than my pitch. I said, you just called me old. I'm like kind of offended. No, I'm joking. When you think about it, you know what? If you look at one thing I tell the younger guys, and it's like, I got like JC, which is one of my main guys out there, and he's like at the beginning of the role, right? He's like the guy that's like, he's got the energy, just took a CSCS, he's doing everything. Yeah. The thing is, a lot of people will look at like the resume and they see a lot of different certs, right? But they don't realize that a lot of those on the beginning weren't really geared towards what I do now, right? It was like collecting paper because that was what you wanted to do. Like, oh, I got all these certs and things like that. But when I look at it, if I could do anything to change anything when I first started, is I would have figured out this is who I would want to work with if I wasn't getting any cash at all. So it's like, and now because of COVID and things like that, you're forced to specialize a little bit more because you have to really dial into that ideal client, right? Yes. So for the young PT, it's like figure out who. For me, I love to work with youth athletes. I do, but I work with small kids and off-season programs, but that's not necessarily, people who watch the videos, they're like, oh, it's great, it's good, but it takes so much out of me, you know, that I'm down, you know. But the funny story I think about when you ask me that question is I have a chance to do sometimes these technical things for like video shoots for like a brand like, say, Kohl's. Yes. And when they do pictures with small kids, they have a lady that just works with small kids. She's got like knee pads, all the different teddy bears. She's got everything else. So one day I'm just enamored. Like I'm staring at this lady. Of course she thinks like I'm a crazy creeper, right? Right. So I'm like, ma'am, what do you do? And she's like, I'm the wrangler. And I said, wrangler? What does the wrangler do? So she just wrangles the kids. That's it. Yeah. So that's when I think of specialization. That's what she does. She wakes up every day. She just wants to work with the smallest, most wildest, out of control kids. And I just looked at her. I said, I need one of those. Because like for me, I'm not the wrangler here. Like I'm gonna be chasing kids, and then next thing you know, all the kids are gonna be jumping me and hit me with bats. Right. Because it's like not what I do. But youth athletes and things like that. So I love to work with pros, but I like to really work with youth. So it's like where I centered it because I want them to learn the right way to play and to do different things. So like to just circle back and answer that question in a more defined way is to figure out who it is that you would wake up every day and you work with, because when you're in that big box setting, you're trying to work with everybody. Some people feel like, you're dreading that. You try to avoid having that 1 hour that you dread, right? Right, yes.
The guy that bought 65 sessions too, right? He like owns you for like the next 6 months.
boom, and
Yeah.
you can't, and you hate that hour.
You hate
So,
that hour. Yeah.
you know, I don't. The thing I think I'm probably most proud of is I don't have that anymore, really. So
Yes.
it's like,
Same. Oh man.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, I'm truly working, and if I don't have a setting, like I said, I'll get that person that's the wrangler or this person that wants to just work with that population, and
Yes.
that's the difference.
Yes. Yeah. Michelle is on here. Get to work. And when we had a conversation, she was talking about the fact that these certifications, it's almost like, you know, like the typical black story growing up, like you have to work twice as hard to get half as far. And
Mm.
then we see that in the fitness industry as well, right? Where it's like, I have to get this cert, and then I got my bro cert, and then my pre and post natal, and then my like TRX, and then my boat. So you have like, you know, like 75 certifications after your name just to show that you got some clout,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's sorry, go ahead.
No. I was gonna say, yes, it's a tough role. You know, the one thing is, it's been the change that it's just like you just said. When you look at it, when you look at your story, I think that if I look at it, that's one of the things I try to do is to try to be present in the room with people, not just because of whatever they did, but people that you respect that don't just have names, right? That have great
Yes.
energy that you can learn from, because it's the
Yes.
hardest thing to do, right? Because
Yes.
when I'm
Absolutely.
at, yeah, well, when I first started, like everybody wants to be up there and speak, right? Everybody wants to do it. And then you get to a point with it that you say, why? What message?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when I look at it, I try to look at it and say, what message can we deliver? And it's like you say, the feeling nowadays is a good time to explore that, where you feel like you got to work twice as hard. And I think that that's something that we're beginning to address, and it's a
Yeah.
good time for people like ourselves to bring it to light in a way that and it's like when we talk just about what we wanted to talk about.
Yes.
We want to bring things to light in the respect that there can be actionables put behind it. And I think that a lot of it's, you know, we get to a point where we're acknowledging these things that are happening, and that from
Yes.
this subset, we have to work and do these things. But what are the actionables that we can get people to actually trigger to help make things better, so that that's not the case, you know,
Yes.
moving forward, but not
Right.
just ourselves, but everybody that's,
For
you
everybody.
know,
Yeah.
yeah. And like you say, yeah, it's so true.
Mm-hmm. So
I
just
saw
a comment.
Lawrence. I saw Lawrence Biscontini jump in there. We love you too, Lawrence. He jumped on
Yeah.
there. I saw something in
Nice. Mind Body Millers. Megan here has a comment. Says, I did several TRX certs, Viper certs, Power Plate Nutrition coaching certs. It's best to keep a focus on maybe 3 to 4 things and think outside the box of different things besides fitness, like Reiki. Yeah.
there. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So there's just like having different areas of expertise. You know, and I even go like Reiki, yes. I mean, like stuff like that is good, but what about like a communication course? What about like
Mm,
a business management course? What
mm,
about, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that as well. Because we all know people who are crazy smart, book smart, but can't get it out of their mouth to get people to move. They want them to move, or can't get the person to renew their
mm.
sessions because they're just not engaged enough. And it's like, well, you need a course on micro skills. Like you got those macro skills down point,
Yeah.
but you
You,
know,
it goes back to what you just said. It's like, how long did you practice that? No, for
yes,
me, for me, you know what? It's not like you talk to people on an everyday basis, and that's the one thing that's changed. Unfortunately, it's like, yeah, I'm out. I want to do all these things, but these people are the people that come into the business every day in, day out, and it's
yes,
how do I communicate the things that they need, and that's the one thing that we try to do more. So like you said, it's definitely important. And just to comment on what she brought up, which is so key, is a lot of times when you bring those different skill sets in, especially your specialization. I mean, I'm a former athlete. I use that every day. You know what I mean?
yes,
The different skills and it goes into the totality of making you a more well-rounded professional. So you
yes,
definitely be going out and trying. So like you said, getting outside of, you know, the fitness industry. So daily, and this is just my thing, I always try to devote at least an hour to development every day, but
mm,
in 3 prongs. So one, I always want to be sharpened in the sword. So I got to stay up on, I love having the young fit pros that I got, because they keep me fresh on the technical aspects. So I study something on that a day, study something about business, because I'm a business owner like yourself. So we got to stay up on that. And then I always do something self-development wise, even if it's a digital thing, a book or something like that. So I always got something going to try to make sure we bring all that stuff into what we do on a daily basis.
Right. What about mentors?
Oh man, that is an amazing question. Mentors, that was how I got into it. You know, to be honest with you, I started in this industry at 15.
Really?
So yeah, I got my first cert at 15. And went to work for Bally's Total Fitness in Springfield, New Jersey. Where I learned everything that you probably shouldn't do in the fitness industry in the first week.
Yes.
Big box. But that also started my first mentorship, because I was there, and the same guy who hired me, it was a guy named Chris Lee who hired me and gave me a shot. He actually met my mom first. And my mom, I first got working papers, and my mom basically walked into this gym, which was on Route 22, and said, hey, because I'm from Hillside, Irvington, New Jersey, I could be doing a lot of stuff to get in trouble. Yes. And trouble will find me no matter where I'm at. So she said, hey, you got any fitness jobs? He likes doing push-ups, and he's like, we don't have anything but trainer jobs. He would have to have a cert or be studying one. But that was all I did, is I would get fitness books. So you'd be at the mall with my mom, basically, and she would be shopping. But back then you had Walden books and B. Dalton books in the mall. I don't know if in Canada it's probably the same thing, right?
Like your Chapters or Kohl's bookstore or whatever. Yeah.
Basically, right?
Yeah.
So my mom is shopping. I'm hanging out in the bookstore reading fitness books. So she basically called a fitness certifying agency, one of these places in the phone book, back when they still had those, and just said, can my son take your test? He reads these fitness books. I just want to know if he's actually reading it and not just looking at the pictures.
Yeah.
They
really?
sent it. Yep. They let me take it. I ended up passing it. I went to work for them. And then just to hit the mentorship aspect, that guy became a mentor for me, because later on when I stopped playing, I went back, and he was running New York Sports Club at the time.
Okay.
And he basically hired me as a fitness manager. I went to work at Harborside in Jersey City. And then what happened is I was training people, as a fitness manager, and I had one client, and she was with me for a long time. And there was this thing called the Under Armour Combine 360.
I remember that.
Yeah, Under Armour Global Symposium, and they had all these videos going out, and I remember it was going, and then I wanted to go so badly, but I couldn't afford it. And then at the time, she was like, I think you should probably go. Like, there's got to be something bigger for you than this. She was like, this is what I'll do. She's like, me and my husband will loan you the money if you'll go and you take it. You'll pay us back at some point. I'm convinced of it.
Yes.
And they loaned me the cash to go, and I went. I went by myself. I always tell people that's like, so like you do the same thing. I saw you were by yourself at the camp. Doesn't mean you have to always go by yourself. But when you go by yourself, it's different. I went to my first one. Then you meet people.
Right.
Because like energy is going to attract like energy, right? So you're going to see a guy that you're like, oh, I can vibe with that guy. You go or whatever. So that was how I met Todd Durkin and Peter Twist and all these guys. And then I ended up joining Todd's mentorship. So he was like one of
okay, there you go.
Yeah. So I was in that mentorship for a little while. I went to his mentor 3.5 day and started with that. So I'm a big fan of mentorship, and I try to do my own thing here as well. And I usually will say you have to go through stages with mentorship, right? So it's always where you have to, learn and get what you can out of it, and you have to continuously find. So even now, we have to continue to try to find mentors in everything that we do, right?
Absolutely. And I think I've been thinking a lot about mentoring and coaching lately, because it was refreshing to hear that, with Todd Durkin's program, you went through that. Like, Todd's solid, no question. But with everyone out there running coaching programs and stuff like that, sometimes I'm like, who's out there just to make money coaching? Who's out there to actually authentically help people coaching them?
The majority of them making money, because
let's just call it that.
Listen, we want to. Let me retract that a little bit.
Yeah, I feel you. Okay.
What I'll say, I don't mind. I don't mind saying what it is we really want to say. But when I looked at his mentorship, and the one thing that stood out to me is I really didn't know anybody in the industry like that.
Okay.
And the truth of the matter, how I found him is I was looking for people who had a background similar to my own.
Right.
And
Okay.
that I could identify with. Somebody that was a former athlete that was running a successful fitness business, because that was what I wanted to do.
Yes.
And then was training athletes on a regular basis, you know. And at the time it was like, yeah, I want to, you know, train these guys and do these and Super Bowl winners and everything else.
Right.
And that was what I wanted to do. So I aligned all my goals from that. When I look at it, I think the quote is like, you can only take somebody on the journey as far as you've taken yourself. You know what I mean? So,
right.
You know, it's hard for you to have a financial coach that's been bankrupt 6 times. You know what I mean? So it's tough. You know what I mean? So you need somebody, not to say that some of those people might be good. One of the things about Todd's mentorship, and Todd is fantastic, is I found him, but really my coach that on a regular basis was this guy named Larry Indiviglia. So Larry is, you know, I like to call him, he's the godfather of coaching. If you ever met Larry, he's great. But the one thing he did for me that was better than what some other people did is when I had issues, he didn't try to figure them out for me. He just asked me the right questions that forced me to try to figure them out myself.
Yes, there's power in questions, man.
Yeah, man. And somebody else I was listening to a talk the other day, and he said, when you face adversity, your brain is at its sharpest. You know,
right? Yes,
because you're forced to figure it out. We doing that now, right? It's like, oh, I can't be outside. I can't be inside. I got to figure out how to do this outside. How can I do this? How can I do that? You know what I mean? So, I think that with the things that I was going through, his questions that he asked me, you know, really forced me to actually put myself out there. It's hard to do, you know, and that's what I think really good coaching and mentorship, it forces you to ask yourself the questions that you don't really want to ask and do the work that you don't really want to do. You know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And that's great, man. Because I mean, there's always those challenges, and it helps us to be in, like, I keep using the word, a safe space, right? Like, you need a safe space where you can fail, a safe space where you can jump and know that if you fall flat on your face, you can get back up and you're not going to be ridiculed and reminded of how much you fail. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah. And then not only that, but somebody to help you, you know, that you're not navigating it by yourself. You know, and that's the most important thing. Failure is one thing, right? But if you got somebody that says, you know, coaching and support is like encouragement. You know, always be, and you're a business owner. This stuff is like, you come in one day and you got it all down. The next day you come in and you feel like somebody just basically kicked you in the groin as soon as you got to the door. You know?
Yeah.
I think I could say that on IG Live. But that's how it feels. Some days you're going to get kicked right in the face. Yeah. And then some days you're going to be like, oh, I got it. But the plane kind of goes like this.
Right.
But sometimes you'll have somebody that says, all right, cool, this happened. What did we learn from it? How do we go? So that you can move forward off of that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the best lines I got from a mentor when I was starting out, a colleague of mine who was a business owner, he basically sat me down and said it this way. He goes, you are not a personal trainer. You are a business owner, and your product happens to be fitness. Yeah. So you can change it. You can sell t-shirts, you can sell oysters, and you're still a businessman, and your product will be X. So right now, shift your mindset from just being a personal trainer to being a business owner, and your product is fitness. And that changed the way from that point forward, how I handled like my whole operation.
Yeah, I agree, because you have so many people. It's like, all right, well, do you think that the results are going to sell? Because, hey, I get great results. That's what you have. You know, what's unique about it? I get great results. You know, okay, so if everybody's getting great results, it's like, how do you sell it differently? Everybody's got a theme park, right? Not everybody's Disney. Not everybody's Disney. Six Flags will be the first to tell you. They're not bad, but we're not Disney.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's the truth.
It's the truth, man. And the other piece I'm mentioning, I've always thought about too, is like there's almost like 3 levels to mentoring. And tell me what you think about this. Now, if you look at it, you have someone who is like your peer mentor, right? Like someone like walking the same, like a guy who has another studio, who's doing the same things, has similar certs or whatever, life experience. Someone who's coming up, the up and coming, that young buck who wants to be where you are, sort of thing. And then someone who's been there already. right? So you have
Yeah.
that old goat who just seen it all and just calm when you're freaking out. There's someone who you can commiserate with because you're going through the same thing, and there's someone who thinks they knows it all that you just have to just kind of help show them, where's the next step, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm always trying to staff, not physically staff, but have those people in my world, like someone I
Yeah.
look up to, someone I'm locking arms with, and someone I'm helping up.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's great, and like you said, that's a great way to put it. Those three buckets to have people. Like when we talked about Larry, just he's in that
Yes.
goat. He's in that goat.
Yeah.
And then we always have to, reach back to teach and things like that. I think one of the biggest things when we think about mentoring and stuff like that is, and I see this a lot, I think people fail to kind of graduate from that process, right?
Yes.
So I was saying this on Fraser's, Fraser had me on the TRX for a talk one day, and I was telling him, I wrote this down a long time ago, but one of the things that when I look at mentoring is, one, people, you got to join it. A lot of times people don't initiate it. They know they need coaching, but they don't get it. Okay. Yes. And then when they get the coaching, they fail to participate.
Yes, right. They don't want to put the work in.
Yep. So it's join, participate, or they don't want to put the work in, or they're afraid to put the work in, or they're scared to put themselves out there, right?
Yes.
Then it's important stages because it's like imitate. So when you first get there, you find a person. So it's easy for, like, you see somebody like Todd or somebody like that to imitate, because you take on their characteristics. You think that they're successful. But then there's another stage where you think emulate, right? It's where you take what you really do best. And I think that's the one changeover for me, is I realize that he does this really good, but that's not really my thing. And then you got your own way. So that's that emulate. And then after that, once you got a hold on it, then it's the graduate. So it's like join, participate, imitate, emulate, graduate. And that's those stages. But when you look at it, you nailed it right then and there. And within that process is having those three different people in your life. But being able to graduate when you get what you need doesn't mean that, you don't have a great relationship with them. But it's like when you think of somebody like, obviously hip hop generation, and you are too. You dropped the Big Daddy Kane on the So when you look at somebody like a Jay-Z, right? And then people don't always attribute, but you got to think of how many mentors he had on the road towards becoming this mogul that he is now.
Right.
We look back and you remember, Jay-Z baggy clothes, making Hard Knock Life, sitting on the front of his, whatever car. And then there came the clothing line. Then there was the alcohol. Then there was Def Jam. Then there's I'm the Billionaire. There's so many stages. You look at how many people he probably contacted to learn and extract. But each time graduated from that process to transition himself into something new. And that's what the toughest thing is, that, like you said, at this point, I feel like I always want to be a personal trainer because it just breaks my heart to think that, but a lot of times I have to realize that I'm not, the 15-year-old grinder anymore, right?
Right.
So it's like, if I got, my guy here doing their thing, that they're the grinders right now.
Yes.
I got to transition so it helps them get better.
Right, exactly. Another part, and Isadora touched on this yesterday too, is we want to go up to those next steps. And then there's some barriers along the way with those steps, right? So think of Jay-Z and he was saying he went from here to here to here to here. Who did he lose along the way in terms of friends? What was his fears along the way as he's moving up there? There's a reality of being afraid to succeed as well, right? When I used to work with youth a lot, in social work back in the day in another life, I use an analogy of climbing a ladder, right? And there's people who look up and say, man, I'm almost at the top. And there's people who look and say, man, look how far I am from the floor.
That's a great way of putting it.
And then you stay there because okay, if I take one more step, that's a bigger fall. So that's a reality too, right?
So true. I think that's one of the toughest things, right? Is what do they say? It's like that Denzel Washington thing. Everybody posts the meme where he says, if you're in a room with 5 rich people, you'll be the 6th. If you're in the room with such and such, you'll be the 6th. It's like you have to really, and it's not that you have to all the time realize, it's like I'm trying to think of one of the quotes my pops gave me, but you want to be around people who are how many people are providing you and people that are feeding you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As opposed to people that
Like
are
iron
feeding
sharpens
on you.
iron.
Yep. So
Yes.
it's you want to have more. How many people think about how many people are feeding you, right? As
Yes.
opposed to feeding on you. So it's
Yes.
really, when we think about it, and it doesn't make the people, it's like you have to go away and be able to have those people. So it's like you were talking about, just those buckets, right?
Yes.
Always, they say if you're the smartest person in your group, you need to get out of that group and get into another one, right?
Yes.
Because it's
Yeah.
not a mean thing. You have to, like, because your growth is dependent on it.
Right.
And
Exactly.
especially now, and we can bring back anything and just say especially now, but
Mhm.
it's like you have to learn fast. You know, you think about, I had some of my people this morning, right? And they go to another place. And he was like, yeah, I was going to this other place. Yeah, they just sent me an email like saying, we're going to be going outside. And he's like, dude, you're like 2 months too late. We've been out here doing this for like 2 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going back there. He's like,
Yes.
and that's what I mean. Like, you got to be fast. It's like,
Yes.
you know,
Agile, man. We're athletes. You gotta be agile.
you have to, because otherwise you're gonna get lost. You're gonna get left.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you're gonna get eaten.
Yep. Exactly. I love what Megan said there. Yes, you gotta level up your social circle.
You have to, most definitely. You have to, because, and not in a mean way. It's just
No.
that you have to keep people around you. We could go back to Jay. You just, like you said, you dropped it on that one. It's like you look at the different camps. You can go all the way back to Prince. Like, that was one of the things that people used to say about Prince, is how often the band members would change, right?
Mm.
And that was just really, like, because he had this. You got this. Another thing is, you got to have somebody you look to that's doing it, right? And you got to say, you think about, what is Michael Jordan without Detroit? You know, Detroit created that beast that they
exactly,
they created that thing, because it was like you kept knocking him to the floor, and I couldn't get over this hump. So, you know, and it's how many. You got to have somebody you look across and say, oh, all right. So Prince look across and he had Michael. You know what I mean? Mike's dropping. What? Oh, he's dropping that? No, you guys got to step it up. We got to step it up.
Yes.
You know? So you got to keep people around you pushing you, not just, you know, telling you what you want to hear, but also.
Exactly. Better every day, man.
You got no choice, right?
Yeah. I've actually shared that story already this week, but like that, once again, it comes back because Twist was the one who gave that band, you know, that better every day little rubber band wear around the wrist thing. So he did a talk a while ago, and he said that, and it just it was years ago. It resonated with me, and I was like, yeah, man, the better every day, and that was my thing. And then one day the band broke.
So I think he probably got that from Trevor Anderson. So Trevor Anderson owns a Better Every Day in Orlando. So I'll tell him to send you. I'm gonna tell him to send you some bands, man. He's another good guy you can have on.
I love it.
It'll be funny.
Yeah, and the thing with that too is like, I had it for so long, and you know, when I told my dad, like my dad and some of his buddies come in and they do Pilates with me, you know, and whatever. So I told them the story of how I had this forever and it broke. And one of the guys said, it's because you have that on the inside now. You don't need it on the outside.
Love it. You know,
that's like old man wisdom, right? Like
it's old man wisdom. See, we got it now. Like you called me old earlier. We got we're the old man wisdom. So when I walk in the back, I'm the old man guy that they're looking at now.
Yeah. That's all good, man. You have the gray hairs to represent too, right?
Yeah, that's why I just cut it now. No more goatee. You still living the goatee life. I cut it and pretend.
Yeah. Too funny. Someone was asking you earlier to talk about your book.
Okay.
Yeah. So how'd that come about?
So, wow, that's another. I always got a funny story for something. But you know what? The 30-minute shred started because I had clients, and what happened is they were doing hours, and then people are busier than they ever were, right? Yes. So you get a person who comes in and says to you, "Oh, well, I can't really do it. Doesn't fit in my schedule anymore." A client that's like a 4-time-a-week client. So I'm like, I can't really do it anymore. You know, it's not really fitting in my schedule. I'm working. I got this and that. So what I did is I started thinking like, damn, all right, so could you do 30 minutes if we just did 30 minutes? You know, he's like, well, I can do anything for 30 minutes. And when he said that, it automatically went bing. So I started thinking like, damn, can we really do it? So I started like researching just to see like what steps would be the program. It wasn't like earth-shattering stuff, but we started trying it. And one thing I realized when it started was that his energy was higher. it was more focused, and it wasn't this dreaded thing for him every day. Like you said, that one dreaded thing you need to do.
Yes.
It's like, come in for 30 minutes, work hard, get on out the door, right?
Right.
And now we've since modified it where, like, our young athletes, that's all they do. They only do 30 minutes because kids' attention span, they're all over the place.
Yes.
They come in high energy. They got all the energy. They can talk all the crap that they want. Then they run right back out the door.
Yes.
But so I started doing that, and it started building, and we got more clients and things like that. And that was like one of the auspices that got me into the bigger facility, right? Just having, people coming in saying, oh, well, I can do the 30 minutes, as opposed to saying, all right, we'll discount sessions or doing stuff like that. It was like, oh, well, these are the options. You can do 30 minutes.
Yes.
But I was doing that, so I started to present about it, and it was more popular than we actually thought. Like the first time I did it, I think I did it at Idea PTI, and it was sold out on like a Sunday. And you know, at a conference, nothing's ever sold out on like the Sunday, the last session of Sunday. Nobody's staying for that. So it was like packed house, right? So I started doing it, and then I had a friend of mine who I did a bunch of projects with Men's Health, and Adam Campbell is one of my closest friends. He was like the director of fitness at Men's Health. And he was just like, oh, I hear you doing this thing, you got this crazy 30-minute thing. He's like, tell me about it, present it to me. So I got on with him and another great friend of mine, Jill, and they were on there. And I went through the whole presentation. They just basically hung up after that. And I thought, like, hey, they're not interested at all. I'm like, not interested at all. That's it. Never heard from them. Hadn't heard from them in months. Then what happened is I got a call or a text from him, and he just said, remember that 30-minute thing you were talking to me about? We want you to write a guide on it. And I'm like, really? He's like, all right. So he's like, just one catch. We're putting it in a New Year's issue, so you have to write it in 30 days.
What?
Yeah. So when you get the book, I wrote that book in 30 days. So he's like, you got 30 days to write it. This is your one shot. That's it.
Wow.
So we did that. We did the workouts. It's good. I'm proud of it. It's something that was my first like project that you put like your philosophy into it.
Yes.
And I get happy. It's more of a guide. I got some other projects that I'm going to do coming up that are more philosophy based, but it was always a dream to do that. And I always enjoy it when people will reach out and say, oh, I got the book and things like that. So I kind of tried to do everything for that book. I was doing the pictures. I was doing
You're a slash for the book.
I was trying to do everything. And then what happened is that ended up being his last project for Men's Health. So it was more pressure because it's like, this is going to be his last project. I'm going to like ruin the guy's whole legacy with my bad book.
No, that's great, man. I hear you're just like that, your pride and just like that sense of accomplishment with it, and just being able to just share. Like, we're scaling our business every time someone picks that book up, right? In the sense of just sharing your wisdom and your joy of movement.
Yeah, you know what? We try to. It's like we talked about when we first got on, doing your best work, right?
Yes.
It's why are you doing it, and if you look at like this old man wisdom, right? People who want to present now, I usually say why. You know what I mean? Not because I want to be the jerk, but it's just like, what's your message? At the point when I have no more to say, then I won't stay on the circuit anymore. You got to have something to say to people. And it's more than I get the auspice at the beginning of, you want to be in front of people and you want people to know, because we all got that part of us that,
it's a little bit of an ego that just wants to be stroked.
Exactly.
And
then when you get to a certain point, I think you understand more that it's about the message. So that's where I think I am in my career now. It's like, what am I saying? What do I have to say when I stand up in front of, people that are fitness pros? Like, because it's giving back in a way when I look at it. It's like, because it's young trainers that want to come. Am I giving you something that'll help your business, that might help your clients? Or am I standing up here giving you what the last 3 presenters just gave you? And it doesn't make them bad at what they do. It doesn't make anybody bad. It's just that when we doing stuff, it's like, for me, I get excited about the book because it's like, I still enjoy the message.
Yes.
And it's mainstream now, and I'm sure everybody's doing it, but it's still a chance to give our message. So it's like, I watch what you put every day with Pilates and stuff like that, and you're delivering your message, man. My first element of getting familiar with Pilates and how really like badass it was in grad school Like it gave me
Okay.
a project to study Joseph Pilates, right?
Oh, for real? Okay.
Yeah, oh, no doubt. And I had to write a whole like project about it. So I'm thinking like Pilates, why am I writing about Pilates? But everything that we were doing now, TRX wise and all this other stuff, this guy was way ahead of his time. Like
What? Yeah,
way ahead of,
1920s, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
way ahead of his time. Like when I look at two people that were like, or three, like you think of Jack LaLanne, Joseph
Jacqueline.
Pilates, Bruce Lee, you
Yes.
know, because
Yeah.
even if you read, people don't think about it, but if you read a lot of Bruce Lee's, right, he was doing a lot of functional training and talking about a lot of the concepts, you know, that
Yes.
we use now back then, you know, so
Right. Right.
it's not new, you know, so I'm a big fan of so it's purveying the message, but I see the messages you're throwing out there. You do an amazing job.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you know, and even with your book too, that's the thing. Like, there are so many messages out there, and I love the fact that there's such a passion. Like, and you can see Caroline's comment too. Like, I can feel your passion, knowledge, compassion, and wisdom. That
Thank you.
comes out. Yeah, man. Like, she's for real. Like, she's awesome. And likewise with your book, it's like, it's one thing to be like, I'm not gonna write it because everyone's done this right, and a burpee is a burpee, a push-up's a push-up. But passion is passion too, right? Like, and personal training is personal. There's a thing
Yeah.
of people will just resonate with your message, and they can get from you what they wouldn't get from someone who lives 2 minutes down the road who's doing fitness classes in their backyard, right? So
No doubt.
that's why I feel like it's so important to get our message out there. And like, everyone that comes on, that's the first thing I say. Like, what's your message for your people? Message for my people. It's like,
You have
everyone's
to.
got a message, man. Yeah.
If you got nothing to say, it's and the thing is about it, you know what's funny is if we start talking about the virtual aspect, right?
Yes.
I wasn't we've done virtual, we still do it. And it was big in helping us transition to whatever it is. We started with the outdoor and it was good with my people. But I wasn't a big fan at the beginning. I'm not, and I would tell completely truth. We had an online program that we ran here for a long time, and it was through an app. You know, we used the Trainerize app, and they had the programs. But one of the things that when we started it, people weren't doing them, and I was like, "Huh? You're not doing?" So I started calling people like that communication aspect. So I'm just calling them like, "Jen, you had the workout. Why you not doing it?" "Oh, I did a beach body workout." And I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "Oh, I hope you're not upset." I'm like, "No, I'm not upset. I just wanted to, you know, the better thing would be."
Understand.
Yeah, I understand. Tell me why you did it. It's like, "Oh, it's on screen. I didn't have to do whatever." I'm like, "So if we did like a virtual, you would do it?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat." And then I said, "All right, you know what? Exactly." I said, "Okay, I'm gonna give it a shot." So we opened and started doing it, and then I had 4, 5, 6, and then you had a few more people that jumped on, right? And then once again, you get that one nugget that somebody tells you that kind of, where she says, "I love it because it's not different, but it gave me a sense of normalcy. It was you yelling at me. It was you telling me. It was you doing it. And that's it. They're buying, and it's like you just said. It's your message, and they're buying you. So the message that we send here is, yeah, it's about athletic stuff, but it's really about having fitness fun, right? So if we look at the motto, it's like our motto is fitness is too important to be boring. So we don't, people show up, and this morning. And I'll post a lot of stuff in the stories later on, and you've seen some of the stuff on the Lab Sports page. Like people are pulling tires, flipping tires, using a sledgehammer, stuff that they never thought they would do, sledding outside.
Yes.
Yeah, doing crazy stuff for them that they look at. But you look at them every week they come doing this stuff, they start getting better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then now
to get some swagger because they're good at something that their buddies can't do as well, right?
Yep, and you got a culture now. And that's what culture is, right? And you got this guy talking smack to this guy. This guy's talking smack to this guy. Two guys that, if they met in the alleyway, they would, one guy would run down the other end. You know what I mean? So, they would never be friends other than if they hung out here. And that's, the joy of doing it, because what you're doing is like your mentor said to you, you're not really selling. Fitness is the vehicle, right?
Yes.
But every drug, it's a vehicle for the drug, right? You could take it in a pill form. You could take it in a syringe, whatever it is. I think I could say that on IG Live. People are like, what's this background? He's talking about drugs. But it's the delivery system that we deliver our message. That's the fitness aspect is the delivery system. Yes. And I think that, for us, we understand that we use that to deliver, that and change.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. we can spend a whole hour just talking on establishing a culture, right? Like, because once you have that culture, then people get addicted to that. This becomes their third home after home and work, right? And like all that good stuff happens. That's it, man.
You get addicted to it.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? You get it. I'm addicted to it. Like for me, like I got the coaches, but I want to be involved in it. Like I want to, because people are talking smack. I want to be doing it. At 7, I'd rather be in the bed, but I'd rather be here with these guys talking junk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Even this morning, man, I'm trying to make my little promo for you, and like I'm so steeped in this Pilates world right now. But like getting that TRX up the other day outside, and then like throwing out the medicine balls. I'm just like, like I love that. Like I can't. That's still in my blood, man. Like like.
It's gotta be. Why would it leave? And that's the passion that people feel. People say, "Oh, I feel your passion." At any point, when I played baseball, like my baseball background, I didn't get hurt. A lot of people, I got hurt story. I didn't get hurt. I just realized that, and this is like something I'll share, because a lot of times people will say, "Oh, well, why didn't you keep playing baseball?" Because at one point, I remembered as a kid. So I grew up as a baseball player. Grew up, my dad was a ball player. Grew up I remember it would rain, and I'd have my uniform on, and I would cry when I was out the window because I knew we weren't going to play that day, right?
Yes.
My watershed moment that brought me back to fitness was I was playing for a team in New Hampshire at the end of my career. And I remember at one point it rained like 12 straight days. And I was there playing. And I remember being in that same place as an adult, in my late 20s, looking out the window, hoping it would rain so I didn't have to go to work that day. And I'm like, and when you look at it, right, as an athlete, you're an athlete. I think that if you're an athlete, you get it. It's like the artist. It's how you express yourself. It's how you get what's inside out of you.
Yes.
Yep. When we look at a Michael Jordan, we bring him up. That was his artistry at his best. He left to play baseball because at that point it was like, I'm not feeling it. It's like I gotta make up this argument with this guy. I gotta make up a slight with this guy to get motivated.
Right.
So at that point, I just said, you know what? I went in the next day, and I remember my manager was Butch Hobson, who I always respected, and he always was, a big, supporter of mine. And I said, you know what, Butch? I think I'm gonna go home. I don't think I'm coming back. And he said, I would, yeah. He said, I wish you wouldn't do that, Michael. And I said, if I change my mind, I know you'll take me back, but I think that it's time for me to move on. And and I did. I came back home, and like I said, I had that same mentor, and he basically called me and said, "Hey, meet me in Jersey City." I thought he wanted to have a drink or something. He met me in Jersey City, and he walked me in the Harbor Side, and he said, "This is your new fitness manager." I sat outside for maybe 20 minutes because this place was not like you weren't walking into a palace of a gym. This place was like craziness.
Yeah.
I sat out and I stood up and I said, "Let's go. I'll do it." And that started, the whole journey. But it was that energy and passion. So for me, a long way about in the question, or what we're talking about, but to come back to the passion is when I don't feel that anymore, then, it's time for you to do something else. And that's, I don't think either one of us is there yet, even though we the old guard, but
yes,
we keep playing young. We're going to keep playing young.
Exactly. As long as you have energy to be on the front lines, man, like you can sit in the office and get your work done, but you still got to find yourself on the front lines too, right? Yeah.
That's why I like the youth dudes. I run around, I'm beating them at everything. I'm like, when I start beating y'all at everything, man, I'm not letting them win at nothing.
Nothing. I said my kids too, man, I used to teach them like arm wrestling. I would always beat them in an arm wrestle. Like that was the one thing I would never be like, "Oh, you won, good job." I'd be like, bam, every time. Because I wanted them to learn how to lose with grace until they could beat me.
Yep.
Like never, like, and I think that analogy is with lots of stuff in life, like give them places where they can lose, so they're still chasing after, so hungry for it, right? So, man.
We crack up when they walk away because you see them walking away with the other ones during like the off-season camps, and they'll be like, "He's so mean."
I love it.
And I'm like, "That's right."
Yeah, recognize. Too funny. Man, we have like 5 minutes left. That was like the fastest hour ever.
Hey, listen, I'd love to come back. I'll come back at some point. We have more fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, Caroline has so many questions here. Just one last quick question. She was saying, like, for people that are in the Pilates industry who just come in or just teaching Pilates and they want to get into personal training, want to get into, where would you say is a good place for them to start to just sharpen their skills and get that PT side to their movement practice?
For me, and we got interns, and they'll tell you, my guys here, like, I always think you should do a CPT no matter what it is. Like, I think that, like, even if you're a CSCS or you're Pilates certified, something like that, what that does is it gives you a framework for training people, right?
Yes.
So a lot of times personal training is more than me and you just sitting there doing exercise, right? There's a framework to the programming that you don't get. And then you know that you did. It doesn't make you great, but it gives you, one of the things in our industry is we have to regulate ourselves because we don't have a
like
government.
The College of Teachers or the College of Social Workers or medicine, whatever, governing.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. So one of the things we got to do is we have to make sure that we do everything to provide the standards. What it is, it's like, I always use the analogy of, what if you found out your doctor never went to medical school? You'd be like, what the hell, man? What was this about?
That's true.
you just told me to cough, man. It wouldn't be cool, man. Hey, remember that exam, man? I see you outside the hospital. So when you think about it, right, it doesn't make you a great trainer. But
right.
it is the criteria, and it gives you a framework. So I'm always a fan of like ACE and, NASM, NSCA, and those guys of getting so that way you have a framework of what it is, and then you're staying up on what the newest research is in that aspect.
Yes, yeah.
So
more tools for the toolbox.
No doubt, and it doesn't hurt, but that's a viable cert that'll carry you no matter where you go, right?
True.
And that's it.
Love it, man. Love it. Awesome, man. Like, thanks for your time today, man. This is so good.
Thank you for having me, man. When you asked, I was so honored. I appreciate it, man. I enjoyed the blow up. You did a great job marketing. You gave me something to add to my story. I love it.
Nice. All good, man. All right, I will sign you off. I'll follow up with you a little bit later today.
Yeah, anybody want to find me, if you could give them social, at Michael Piercy, at The Lab Sports. Would love to connect. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. All right, thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Core Conversations. This organic platform has been made possible by amazing people like yourself. So if you're a Pilates instructor or a movement specialist of some kind and you want to be a guest, please message me. If you're in some other field and the messages just resonate with you, message me. I'd love to have you on. All of our messages connect, and for some reason, they all help us in this battle. We're all in this game together, so I'd love to hear from you. Let your words be life to someone else. Check out our website, personalvictory.ca. Click the Core Conversations page to see who our upcoming guests are, and I will see you next time on Core Conversations.